you for helping spread independent local music. Support community radio. This is 90.1 KPFT Houston.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to America, the United States of America, that is. Good morning to every nook and cranny receiving our signals, whether it be Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana. Welcome. Good morning to the rest of the world through our internet. The tentacles reaches all over, and we are listened to all over. Anyway, folks, we are going to have a great show for you today. I trust all is well. I trust you had a great weekend. Well, the weekend was kind of tenuous in the world. But before we get started, let's go to the geniuses in the studio. Buenos dias, mis amigos, mis genios favoritos. Good morning, my brothers. How are you guys doing today?
Ladies and gentlemen, from across town, to across the state, to across the nation, to across the world, it's Politics Done Right on KPFT Houston.
Boom, 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 boom.
Well, the boom came first, really. You want to try that again?
Well, we need that piece of music from 2001 Space Odyssey.
Well, right. And you need a better announcer for this, too.
No,
But
man,
hey, we
that
had a good time
announcement
this
was
weekend.
great.
Yeah, Jack and I went to the art car parade, broadcasted live from there, which was pretty cool. So we had a good time down there and saw all these weird art cars. The only thing that stops people from anything is their imagination, and their imaginations were quite stimulated with the art car parade. We saw some really weird stuff, man.
Hey,
Yeah, I never pictured using foam to shape the shape of a car and spray
Yeah.
on foam.
Oh, you don't live on the right side of town because they do that all the time.
well,
All right.
yeah, I mean, that is crazy. I mean, I saw some of those cars on TV. I mean, it is amazing. And by the way, the foam cars made of that kind of stuff, you
Mhm.
hope it would be structural, but it's not, man. Think about it. You get a little back, but those cars aren't meant to go out there. They're just there
Well, no,
to be beautiful.
it's just an art car. You don't drive those
Yeah.
things. I mean, well, some people do. I've seen those things out on the street and like, okay, crazy person number one, avoid.
Well,
We wish
there's
you
a
were out
woman.
there.
There was
Yeah,
I should have, but I had to spend some time with a friend who lost his wife, and
oh,
yeah, so
that's
it was one
sad.
of those weekends where so much was happening. But I tell you what, it's great that we can do all the broadcasting from all the different places because of the great work from you guys, man. Folks, and that's why you invest in a station like this, because this is a little station not that could. This is a little station that is. So it's
Can.
great.
It does, yeah.
Yes, it's great. That is just like marvelous. But anyway, what's the word of the day, brother Jacques?
The word is war.
Ah,
War. War.
Again, no.
American citizens, please be aware. The corporate fascist mantra is privatize the profits and socialize the cost. They're doing this for war also. Taxpayer monies pay to build the bombs, the missiles. Then the builder profits when the bombs, missiles are sold. This is how war is financed on the backs of the people to kill the innocent, to profit big oil. How much oil is under Gaza anyway?
Well, I think we're going to find out,
yeah,
because
we
that's
are.
what that whole thing's about. It's about we're going to take your land because you won't deal with us. We're going to destroy your land. We're going to destroy your civilization just so we can get to some oil. Well, that's bad. It's just bad. Hey, Egberto, you know what I saw this morning? I
Tell
watched
me.
Script News. I watched Scripps News. It's one of the free channels you can get, one of the sub channels.
Uh-huh.
And I saw something that said the federal government has given billions to Samsung to develop computer chips, and they're going to build them here in Texas. So that means some jobs will be coming up.
I love that.
However,
I think I
I,
love it.
I
You love that, right?
I love it, but I don't love it because what's going to
Okay.
happen is Samsung will develop something, charge the crap out of people, and their R&D was paid for by the government and our taxpayer dollars.
Oh,
That's
okay,
what I
I
don't
got
love.
you. No, no, no. That is abs. But by the way, I made a mistake and didn't have the share turned on, so it's turned on now. But
Okay.
here is the interesting thing. You nailed it again. I mean, I kind of missed when you said we are paying to develop these chips because that is
Yeah, we
exactly
are.
what we do, Howard, with medicine, with drugs, with techniques. We invest in the universities and pay for all this stuff, and then these other guys make a ton of money over it. That's what we got to try to put in the minds of people. Remind people that this is what happens. They're the our saviors in the world are the people, man, and they have to realize the power that they really have.
Vote them out. That's what I say.
Yes, you nailed it. That's what we need to do.
Okay. Well, what you got for us today, man? I know you got an exciting Monday show.
Yes, yes, yes. Today, the title of the show is Netanyahu is bullying America into a catastrophic war. Donna Brazile made me proud. Bibi Netanyahu is using America's undying support for Israel to fight an ill advised catastrophic war. Donna Brazile put the brakes off immoral, ever talking former RNC Chair Reince Priebus. Look, I hope I get to those, but before I just want to start with a little bit of sort of a, I don't want to call it a history lesson because I'm no historian. I just know things that have happened, right? But the interesting thing is this. First of all, every country on this planet has its good, has its bad, because that's what governments do, good and bad. That's what societies do, good and bad. There's no pure society. There's no society, country or whatever that can go out there and say we are all good, we're all bad or anything like that. We use nationalism, glory, glory, hallelujah, as a form, uh, as a national form. Whether look, I'm a United States citizen. I will do whatever I need to do to defend our people against other people attempting to harm us. That is just a natural thing. But at the same time, I, as an individual human being, Howard as an individual human being, Jack as a individual human being, all of us, it is incumbent on us to make sure those that we elect don't do the things that harm us. But we also need to understand that the people we elect reflect who we really are. Whether we elect them because of ignorance or whether we elect them because of vengeance or whether we elect them for some purpose, you know, they will not replace us. Whatever reasons we do, the elected officials reflect us. Now, when we start to justify our support for a country like Israel or our disdain for a country like Iran or anything of that nature, I think it is incumbent on us not to just listen to politicians, but to try again, listen to some history. And one of the reasons our country is allowed to make the choices that it makes, some very ill advised choices, is because, again, we don't know our history. And likewise, we allow those who profit, as Jack mentioned earlier, from war. Again, war is a very profitable thing, a very, very profitable thing. And when we allow ourselves or allows our naivete to allow these guys to continue the profit from us, we make bad decisions. We have cascading decisions. Now, we love to hate on Iran here, if you listen to uh, President Biden, if you listen to former President, I don't even know why I mentioned him, Trump, because it's not like he has a lot upstairs or even know a thing about history. But if you listen of their articulations, if you listen to our State Department, etc., it's like for no reason, this one evil empire, Iran, is something to hate. Now, look, let me tell you, do these guys have a social system that demeans women? Yeah. Does this system have a social system that doesn't give women their rights, don't give people a whole lot of their rights? Yes. That's a very bad thing in the system. But does that mean we go to war for those things? No. Uh, did do we have crosses in our past where we have done things badly, just as bad as Iran? Yes. Should we have some humility when we castigate other countries for the evils that they do? Yes. We should have some humility. We should look in the mirror a whole lot of times, not only from the inception of the country, our past, when it comes to not only slavery or the genocide against the Indians or the mistreatment of our indentured servants or the mistreatments of the Chinese. Look, every country has its ills to bear. Every country has things that they have done really, really badly. And we have done our share to the nth degree. So we should have humility when we're talking about other countries, which we don't. Other countries, believe me, they know the things that we've done. I mean, while we can burn books in the United States to try to make sure our people don't know the things that we've done or to learn the historical things that we've done, we can burn books, we can stop teaching it in school, we can stop DEI, we can stop critical thinking, we can stop and try all those things, but all it does is it makes a population that is fairly ignorant. And in making a population fairly ignorant, it makes a population easily controlled. It makes a population that would not see what having elect a Donald Trump in 2016, what it actually does to what people think about us, not because uh, of Donald Trump, but because we, the people, saw him fit enough to elect as a country that calls itself the leader of the world, that we could elect someone as unintelligent, unknowing of the world like this guy. But on the subject of Iran and Israel, let's remember that back in 1953, when we, the country who says it supports democracy, overthrew Mossadegh in Iran, which it started all this cascading. I mean, people have a tendency to have a window of opportunity or a window where they only see what's happening today, not understanding the genesis of the situation, not understanding that there is always cause and effect. And it becomes cliche when you hear Jack today talk about the defense industrial complex, or when you hear Jack talk about the oil, everything is based on oil, or it seems like we're here to attack oil, something that, let's say, Texas is very dependent on. Nope, that's not it at all. It's that so many Americans, so many foreigners, so many Panamanians who came and fought in the American military has paid so much for those fat cats sitting in these offices controlling the world by oil. The world is run still by oil, and we don't understand it. When you see the corporate greed index, also known as inflation, that is all that all has its genesis in oil. People say, well, what are you talking about? The fertilizers that the farmers use, oil. the transportation of the goods to market, when you go to the store and whatever, oil. The flights moving around the country, oil. The electricity, mostly that we burn, hydrocarbons, oil. Everything is an oil economy, and it plays a major role in the enrichment of a few. Now, ask yourself what happened in 1953. The new government that it was elected in Iran said the following: all the oil companies that have royalties here drilling for this great amount of oil in Iran, which has a huge reserve. You know what we want to do? You foreign companies come into our land, drill for oil, take the oil, and give us a what? A profit, a royalty. So you come to my land, you're digging for my oil, and you're giving me 16 cents on the dollar for the oil that you extract out of the gold. For the oil of the Iranian people that you extract out of the ground, you're giving us 16 cents. But it's not that you're giving us 16 cents, it's that we have an idea that you're not telling us how much oil you're taking out of the ground and sending it on to the markets. So Morshadai says, you know what, guys? We want an audit of what the British and the American allies are taking out of the ground. And for that, we, the British and the Americans, overthrow the government and reinstall the monarch Pahlavi into Iran. That is how this new Iranian thing started. We should understand a few things here. Oil. A country overthrown because of oil and how much profit is going to be made by a particular company. The company now known as BP and others. How many of you know that? How many of the people here really condemning as super evil this country of Iran? Okay, I'm not here to defend Iran. I'm not here to defend Israel. I'm not here to defend anybody. I'm just here to tell what has happened, stuff many of us don't know. And in not knowing, we make bad choices or we support bad choices. So this stuff didn't start yesterday, and the same with the formation of Israel a few decades ago. And the defense of Israel, which we continue to do. Let's look at also how Israel was created, for what reason, partially also because of the prejudices, the racism of America and Europe. Why, the justification of, it's a deep story, but understand that when you create a new country where people are, you must ask yourself questions. But that's beside the point now. But we must understand the history. Now, we have had problems with Iran since the overthrow of Reza Pahlavi, which was a pawn then, the monarch, a pawn of the West. He did a lot of good things for Iran, but still, again, allowed the pilfer of the country. Like we pilfered other countries, like we've done with oil around the world. Remember, many a times I said, this is a corporate greed index. There is no oil shortage. There was never an oil shortage. The way we prevent Venezuela from putting its oil on the market by attrition, because, again, under Venezuelan law, that oil would belong to the people, not the corporations, which means the people would benefit from the extraction of the great resources in Venezuela. We can't have that. So we rather keep that oil in the ground until we can get the appropriate government in power where corporations can just take the profit for a few. We take a look at the United States of America. we are kept sufficiently in check by giving us just enough to live on, to give the semblance of prosperity, as our oil companies go onto federal land and mine the oil and take the oil that should be the birthright of every single American, which means if all that oil's money, instead of going into the coffers of a few, instead of enriching a few, was going into the coffers of the United States of America, your tax rates would be much lower. You would have health care. You would have all these things instead of watching a smiling few on Wall Street talking about how great it is that oil is now $90 a barrel, even as there has never been an oil shortage, as you have been lied to and told. Look it up. Look up where the major sources of oil are still in the ground. And I'm not an oil proponent, of course, I like green energy, but I'm just saying, even with those who purport to love oil, it's all over the place if we really wanted to talk about it. Now, the war, what Israel did to take your eyes off of the genocide in Gaza. You go ahead and you bomb a sovereign land. And when I say sovereign land, I'm not talking about Syria. Every embassy in every country is a piece of land that is at that point in time, while it's an embassy, it's the land of that country. So the Russian embassy in the United States is Russian land. The Costa Rican embassy in Washington is Costa Rican land. The Finnish embassy in Washington is Finnish land. The agreement that countries have around the world is that we have a piece of said country in every single country as a representative of our country in your land. It's a place where the laws of your land are. It's a place where you should have safe haven. That's why people looking for asylum can run into the embassy in Iran, can run into the embassy in Israel, can run into the embassy in Japan, can run into the embassy in England, or all these other places, because that piece of land that embassy resides on, that consulate resides on, is a part of that country by decree. When Israel sent those missiles knowingly into that Iranian consulate in Syria, it invaded Iran. And it set a precedent that now these guys are at war. Look, even when the United States was at war with Japan, the Japan consulate officially or embassy was untouched, because you have to have continuity in a world of many countries. Israel cares nothing, not Israel, but Netanyahu cares nothing about what it does and how it affects the world internationally. And what we have allowed, being complicit in this, and the retaliation by Iran. And by the way, everybody saw those things flying in the air, all those 300 and something drones. Iran wasn't trying to do no damage to Israel. It just wanted to make a point to the world. You know why? Because Iran knows that if too many of those bombs landed in Israel, the United States, the great defender of Netanyahu, would have escalated themselves. In fact, over 80 drones, missiles, etc., were intercepted and blown up by the United States forces in the different oceans. We did it. We are a part of this war. We can say whatever we want. We can tell Israel not to escalate, whatever we want. We're already in this war. We are fighting against Iran when we took out those missiles, right? That Dome, the Iron Dome, partially developed by the United States, the Patriot missiles developed by the United States, the David system, that all those systems that seem to work perfectly around Israel, that invisible dome designed by you, the United States of America, some of it by the United States of America plus Israel. Every missile that went into the sky to knock out one of the Iranians' drones and missiles and whatever else they add cost you. When in regards to the Patriot missiles, every single one of the hundreds of missiles released last on Friday or Saturday night, you paid $4 million because Netanyahu wanted to make a point and take out a consulate in Israel where a few generals or, for the army died, got killed. Just like Israel has taken out since 2012, scientists after scientists, nuclear scientists after nuclear scientists after nuclear scientists in Iran. I don't know if a nuclear scientist in Iran could get insurance because they're a marked person for Israel, for Netanyahu to take out. If we want to be respected around the world, there are two ways to be respected. We got to respect you because you may drop a bomb on us. That's the kind of respect we have today. That's the only respect we have today. But when it comes to intellectual honesty, that's gone. Biden started to rebuild that, but then he hugged Netanyahu. We must know our history. There is so much more I want to say, but I have two calls and this show is yours, but I needed to get that out first. Johnny, come on in.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're okay.
Yes, sir. How are you doing, Mike? I hope you had a good weekend too, my brother.
Challenging. I'll tell you about it some other time.
Okay.
When Captain Reynolds Wrap delivers the news about a chip factory reportedly that will happen here in Texas soon, he is correct when he points out the cost. At what cost are these jobs? This is another example of the Inflation Reduction Act, if I am correct, which, as you and I both know, it's being funded in the wrong way. The way Republicans like to fund everything, every kind of infrastructure project. They like these so-called public-private partnerships, where, as Magic Jack likes to point out, socializing costs and privatizing profits. We wouldn't have to do it that way. We could pay as we go, as Republicans pretend they love so much, if we had a progressive income tax code like we had back in the early 1950s under Republican Dwight D. Eisenhower. So what we're stuck with are people like Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, Kevin McCarthy, Steve Scalise, Scott Perry, Mo Brooks, Jim Jordan, Paul Gosar, Marble Mouth, Mitch McConnell, Chuck Grassley, Lindsey Graham, Matt Gaetz, Ron Johnson, and Rudy Giuliani, and Andy Biggs. All these people in power, including, I would say, Rudy Giuliani, are the reason why we are where we're at. Because we don't take our lead from people like Jesus or John Lennon or Bernie Sanders. I hate to conflate these three, but you know where I'm headed. Or, let's see, who else? Oh, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. These people, these last group of people that I mentioned to you, are the true north of the American spirit and the human nature. But we allow these other folks, those other folks I mentioned, to take the leadership roles and pollute our policy. So it's up to us to coordinate without the use of the internet so that we can't be tracked so easily and figure out a way how to dislodge these people from power. And not just these Republicans, but also, yeah, I know I sound like a broken record, centrist Democrats.
Yeah, I call those the neoliberals, and there's so much to unpack with what you just said, and it is important. We have to do it, and I think that's why in the beginning of this I said that our government reflect us. It reflect either us, an uninformed us, because if we knew a lot of things that we should know, we wouldn't elect the people that we do elect, and it's on us. And a good example is what Biden has done with Netanyahu is not, we can look at it as an isolated thing or whatever, but it has put every single American in danger, not just here in the United States, but traveling all over the world. I mean, people don't get it too often. I mean, it's not a tit for tat. It's not. I mean, we have to understand the reasons why things occur, and just listening to these people and the things that they say makes no sense. But anyway, Johnny, anything else before I get to Spike?
Yeah, I hope Donald Trump puts his foot in his mouth on national TV today when he goes to his first of 4 criminal trials. God help us all. Bye-bye.
I agree. Thank you, my brother Johnny. The mayor of politics done right. Mr. Eric Hayes is on the chat with us. No, I did not vote for the results. And you ask, also, does Iran back Hamas? Yeah, they do. They back Hamas. They back Hezbollah. Do they back a whole lot of terrorists? Yes, they do. But you know what? It's a question never asked. Do we back terrorists as well? Do we back governments that are illiberal as well? And that's where I talk about we have to understand the world not from what we're told, but from what we do. And it's our responsibility to make sure that the parts that we do that are bad, that it's mitigated. Let's go to Spike. Come on in, Spike.
Hey, how are you all doing this morning?
I'm doing fine, sir.
You know, man, I love what you just said because I said that same stuff back in the 80s on a talk show. It was a talk show that they always, on every Wednesday, they had some Israelis on as guests. And I asked them, I asked them, I say, who was there before y'all got there? Before they bombed them people off of their land and put y'all over there. And in the Bible it says, and this is just what I told them, I says, those who portray themselves as Jews and are not Jews are the synagogues of the devil. Okay, now I said this on your station about United States control Israel. They created Israel. And they created Israel to do just what's going on right now. They built the Suez Canal so they can go over there and take all the minerals from over there, to all everything, and they are over there protecting their interests. That's the only reason they there is protecting their interests. And when you said they the ones that built all of the technology stuff they have over there, along with Israel did some of it, but it's America that's controlling that war over there. And when Biden is talking to Netanyahu, like when we hear it, it's like, oh man, I like what he told us. Man, he just telling that. So for the people are here to make you think that he's mad at him and he's against what he's doing and he's gonna do something about it. But when what you don't hear is keep doing what you're doing. We got your back.
I stop right there, Spike. Keep doing what you're doing. We've got your back. That's the magical statement there. But before I want to say something to my um, to my Jewish audience. This has nothing to do with Jewishness. This has nothing to do specifically with the new Israel, as I'm going to explain in a minute, because we have to be very careful about anti Semitism. And listening to your talk, you don't sound like an anti Semite. You sound like a person who understands a whole lot of what occurred historically. But I want to put that out. Every time I speak about this subject, I have promised my Jewish brothers and sisters with what's going on here and with many of the attacks that are in fact happening on campuses against my Jewish brothers and sisters, I want to make sure that as we talk about what Netanyahu is doing, about what the IDF is doing, that we don't make that a reflection on our Jewish brothers and sisters in Israel and outside of Israel. And here's why I want to make this clear. Because remember, we are Americans. And just what our corporatocracy is doing around the world to harm people, we don't want those people having an excuse to say, well, because many Americans have been ignorant to what's occurring around the world, we are going to make you pay by bringing down an airplane, by blowing stuff up. Because just like I mentioned earlier, we are complicit in electing the government that we elect that go and do bad things in our name. The same can be said about our Jewish brothers and sisters who have elected people that do things in their name that harm others. So, as a host, as a responsible host, I want to make sure that on this fact based discussion, nothing anti Semitic comes out of there. So I would love to get pragmatic Jewish and sisters and brothers calling in as well to get onto this subject. But now let's take what some of what you said, Brother Spike. We have to understand that none of this has anything to do with Jewish Americans or anything in the aggregate. It's ultimately all about a small, powerful people controlling us, in this case through oil, through their profiteering on oil and harming the entire world system because of oil. And it's not because of oil, but because of the oil being the source of their power and profits. And you are correct that it's a wink and a nod always with whatever an Israeli government does, and it is a fact that we created. I mean, look, Israel has its religion or its religion of that land, etc. So does the Palestinians, so does many others. But we have used that. The corporatocracy, through influencing the government, has used that for ulterior motives of oil and many other things. So the gist of your statement, Brother Spike, everybody who reads history has to agree to. Anything else before I jump to Augie?
Yeah. And this is what I want to say to the people who went over to Africa and claimed Africa. The ones that went over, you had the Dutch.
The Dutch, the Spanish, the Portuguese, the Belgians. Yeah.
Right. And this, I'm going somewhere with this. They went over there. Who came over here? English. They call them Americans. They came over here, and you had other groups of people went to other parts of the land where people already were and claimed that and claimed that. And what I'm saying about when they created Israel, they brought other people over there and gave them that name. See, we don't want to look at the truth of what has went on. And then we don't want to talk about it. How come they deny who we are? Because we are the Jews, but they don't even want to look. They took those Ethiopian people over there because they call them Jews. We gonna bring them up, but then they turn them into doggone slaves. That's what they did to them. But we don't want to look at that.
That is another. Actually, there's another connection there that I am not. I mean, I just know a little bit of the subject of the Ethiopians. I do that, but so I'm not prepared to talk about that particular one because I don't give information unless I'm fully aware of it. But thank you, my brother. I appreciate your call, and let's go ahead and jump. Let's go to Augie. Thank you for your call, Spike. Augie, come on in, sir.
Hey,
And by the way, folks,
uh,
folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. Again, that is 713-526-5738. I love the conversation that people are calling in. I have a lot of other subjects to cover, but you can read those directly at our newsletter for what the show is about today. politicsandright.com/newsletter. politicsandright.com/newsletter. We have the subject on abortion and many others that we were going to cover today, but I much prefer getting your voices on here. So give us a call, 713-526-5738. Come on in, Brother Augie. One of our great supporters.
hey,
Come on in.
well, Saturday was a great day, great weather, great parade. Looks like a lot of people really liked the KPFT float. They were really dancing and to the music that we had. But
Nice.
anyway, some of those cars are street worthy. There's were like about three of them that were driven year round in the Montrose. Used to be a nuclear car that had like a nuclear bomb on the trunk.
Are you
And I
serious?
remember,
I didn't see that one.
yes. Well, it wasn't there in the parade. It hasn't been in the parade for quite a while, but it used to be in every parade for a while. And whoever owned it worked near the garage we lived at, and they would drive around the neighborhood year round. And there were a couple other cars in that same neighborhood that drove around year round too, even decorated like they were. But anyway, talking about Iran and how they got shortchanged, here in America, the same thing happened with the Grandpa Koch. He stole the oil from the Indians in Oklahoma. They put the Indians on this barren land. They thought it was barren. They didn't realize there was oil under it. And so it had to be pumped out. And there was meters attached to those pumps telling how much oil they had taken out. And Koch was the one whose company was the trucks were taking it out of there. And he told his drivers, if you ever give the Indians an accurate reading, you're fired. So the Indians were shortchanged too here in America. And that's how the Kochs got rich, shortchanging the American Indians. And then they, with their money, they went on to buy the politicians. And the politicians never used to work for money, not until Eisenhower came into power. Like when Truman retired, he went back to his little house. He didn't go to make millions off of the stock market. And the Congress people, when they went to his house, says, "Oh no, you need to get a retirement money." And and they call him President Truman. Said, "I'm not president anymore. They call me Mr. Truman." Nowadays, after they're out of office, we still call him president. And Truman says, "I'm proud to be a citizen of the United States. So all you got to do is call me Mr. You don't have to call me president. I'm not president anymore." But anyway, that thing about Ethiopia in the Bible that mentions the lost tribe of Jews, and after the European Jews went to Israel, the lost tribe was the Ethiopian tribes, and the Ethiopians said, "Hey, all these Europeans came to Israel. We want to come to Israel too," but the Israelis said, "No, you're not Jews." It wasn't until somebody did a blood test on the Ethiopians that found out they had a Jewish gene in them. And when it became public, then the Israeli government couldn't deny them to come in like the European Jews came in. So they had to let the Jews in because everybody knew they were Jewish, whether they wanted to or not. And just because you're Israeli doesn't mean you're perfect. They have their own terrorists. They have their own right-wingers too, just like everybody else does. And the people who are protesting what Israel is doing, there's American Jews here that are protesting it, and there's Israeli Jews that are protesting it. It's just not, us non-Jews.
I'm glad you brought that up, because the idea is that we have to not let the threat of things being called anti-Semitic cause us to make bad decisions, and we need to make sure not to be anti-Semitic. But by the same token, we cannot allow an anti-Semitic trope to be used on those people who just want to do the right thing. And again, that's what I mentioned earlier about my my Jewish friends who make sure to say, look, we like what you're doing. Just make sure to realize that there is anti-Semitism out there, and don't be a part of giving people an excuse to be anti-Semitic. And that's why I say specifically, I come out and I talk about, look, I have no support or tolerance for anti-Semitic folk. I have no tolerance for those folks on campuses of universities making lives difficult for our Jewish brothers and sisters, just like I have no tolerance for folks making black folks' lives difficult, or gay folks' lives difficult, or Latinos' life difficult. We have to get past that. Continue, my brother Augie.
Yeah, Israel is not a synagogue; it's a state.
Right.
So when we talk about Israel, we're talking about the state, not the religion. And there was something else. Oh yeah, about the embassy. We did have a Chinese embassy on the Montrose. It had a
Mhm.
fire, but they wouldn't let the fire department go in because it was a country, and they're not going to let Americans in
Right.
there.
Exactly.
And then so because of that fire, they had to go across the street and took over a floor or two. And I used to work in that building a couple of times, and I was used to going to the telephone room and working for the businesses that were there. And there was an African art store in the first floor. So after the fire, and I had a job in there, I saw some guys in black suits and white shirts and black ties in there. And I said, was it ever used? And then you had to sign in. Found out that was the FBI. And the phone lines for the Chinese offices were in there too. So they were watching those lines, and they were
Right.
watching what we did. But anyway, and
But anyway,
I
Augie,
saw some exactly
go ahead.
about mine is like a parachute. It doesn't work unless it's open, and that's something to think about when Brian calls up and comes with those gotcha questions. He only hears what he wants to hear. He's not open to facts. Him and
Well,
other guys.
let me just, in defense of Brian, in defense of many of our callers who have certain things to say, we have taught, and you know this as well as I do, Augie. We have taught people not to learn, just regurgitate things are out there. Whenever people, the most important thing in life is critical thinking, right? Critical thinking is important. It means that and the thing about it is critical thinkers eventually they get to the same place if things are objective. I mean, look, things that what color do you like, red or blue? That's a subjective thing. That's not a scientific thing, right? But otherwise, people come to the same conclusion on fact-based system if they critically think and if they learn how to critical think. And one of the reasons you see the things like book banning and controlling, Farid Zakaria had a good piece that I clipped that I was supposed to try to get ready for today, but just had too much going on this weekend that I didn't. That talks about the problem of the world becoming illiberal because, and I agree with some of what he says. I think he missed the boat on a couple of particular issues. I mean, and sometimes I think when you go to Washington and you're around too many elitists, a lot of things fall through the cracks. But the gist of his argument made a lot of sense, and I'm going to try to have that for tomorrow. But I think it's important, Augie, like you do, like many others do, to critically think. And if we, as a service, as our program, can just tickle somebody to say, I'm not just listening to what you say, Egberto or Augie or Johnny or anybody else or Spike or whatever. I'm going to go after I listen to this. I'm going to go do research. Like a little off topic that I learned recently, right? And then I went and looked it up. I love TikTok. For anybody out there, I love TikTok. I follow a lot of historians on TikTok that they give some stories, etc. And then what I do when I hear a story that's kind of like shocking that I didn't know about before, I go ahead and take that TikTok story or that TikTok narrative from the professor or whatever, and then I go online and I do research from various different places to validate that information. Like a little simple thing. Do you know why we are why our toddlers in the United States don't get potty trained as early as toddlers in the third world and other places? The diaper industry. They were promoting letting your kids wear diapers as long as they wanted to. I didn't know that. Oh, wait, but again, how did I find stuff out like that? Critical thinking, looking at ads, looking at information out there. That's what we got to do, people. We have to stop the book banning. They are doing that to keep you dumb. You have to stop all these things that we're doing to try to shut you up. And by the way, we have to stop the thing called what's that method of excommunicating people. We have to stop erasing people. What I forgot what the term is called. We have to keep ideas flowing. Anyway, Augie, before I go, anything else you want to say real quickly?
Well, like Fox News, Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson, people believed what they were saying, but Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity didn't believe what they were saying. They were sued and went to court, and this said, "We're not newscasters. We're not telling out the truth. We're a talk show. We're a talk show host. We just give opinions, not facts or truth." But people still believe that they're giving.
They don't give
facts.
opinions, though. They give lies. I mean, a lot of what Sean Hannity say is not an opinion. It's just an outright lie, and he knows that he's lying. But anyhow, anyway, Augie, thank you for calling in, my brother. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Folks, 713-526-5738, 713-526-5738. I can take up one or two more calls. Come on in, Donaldo.
Oh, good morning, Alberto. How was your weekend? Good, I hope.
Yes, I look, I worked a lot this weekend. I know I had to go meet a friend as well who lost his wife, and sit down and have a good chat with him. It was a difficult time, but also I got a lot of work done. Still have a lot more to do, but got a lot of work done. How are you doing? I hope you had a great weekend.
Oh, yes, sir. Go west, young man. That's what I got to tell you.
Okay, I'm
The
going
Indians
west.
out there, and it's undeveloped. And guess what? When you get it halfway manageable, we're going to bring our railroads in, and we're going to come take everything that you halfway built, and we're going to develop it what we need, and we're going to push some evil Indians on the reservations, and we're going to make some money, and you're going to get left by the side. Now, there's a few that did manage to make their way out of that, but all the
Yes.
people that went west to develop it ended up with pretty much nothing. So
It is
there you go. How they use
it is amazing. I mean, you touch on an important fact, right? The plutocracy, those in power, will have everybody believe that they get a piece of the action, right? But in reality, they are. When I talk a lot about antiseptic slavery, I'm talking about the rest of us, right? When the slavery based on pigmentation was given up, a better slavery, a nicer slavery to look at was created. And if we can get Americans to understand what's really going on, we will get better elected officials. We will get the right healthcare system that we deserve. We will get the social system that takes care of people over capital. Thank you, Donna. Let me get to Brian. Anything else real quick before I go?
Well, I was going to say that's why on that island out there that's protected, those people on the island that kill even the little Christians that try to kayak to them,
Mm-hmm.
they know something. There's a really reason for killing anybody trying to come on that island because they already know what's going to happen. I don't know how they know it, but they know it.
All right. Thank you, Donna. Let's go to Brian. Brian, you got a couple minutes. Talk to me, Brian.
Okay, so I guess since I've been called I don't know any facts or something, we live in a representative republic, correct?
Okay, yes.
All right, your friend Tom Hartman continually promotes FDR
Okay.
and says that Donald Trump is a dictator.
Yes.
As it works, a constituent calls a representative and says, "Hey, I think taxes are too high. Can you lower them?" The representative puts forward the bill. It goes to the the House. Then it goes to the Senate as a bill. The president goes and he signs it or vetoes it. Okay, is this correct?
You're correct.
Okay, so your pal Tom Hartman thinks that FDR was the greatest president ever lived.
Okay.
How many bills did FDR veto?
I have no idea.
657.
Okay.
Is that a republic or is that a dictatorship?
Well,
Against
look,
the will of
it's
people,
was it
veto
did what?
bill.
Let me ask you this: what he did, was it unconstitutional or was it constitutional?
It's his opinion.
No, no, no. I asked, my question to you is, what he did, was it
Oh, yeah.
constitutional or not?
Yes, it was constitutional.
Okay, let's stop right there. And is he elect?
Oh,
Wait. No. Okay, I gave you the chance to talk. Let me ask you the next question. What he did was constitutional. Did the Americans have the right to remove FDR? Yes or no?
yes, it's called the voting process.
Thank you. So therefore, that process worked. In other words, FDR may have vetoed 600 something bills, as you say. I'll take your word for it. But
Please look
every
at
time, every time it was time for him to get reelected, he got reelected. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So that means that the people agreed with what FDR was doing. It's that, you know, I don't have a problem in the system working that way as long as we have free flow of information. Look, and by the way, I love what FDR did from a social standpoint, but there are also a lot of things that we should know deep undercover that followed the same ills that followed society then. So, Brian, I think I answered your question, and I think you brought out what you wanted to bring out as what Brother Hartman said. And by the way, Brother Hartman is a friend of mine.
Okay, well, you can tell him he needs to really come out with some facts, such as confiscation of the Japanese Americans.
That was terrible. You agree? I agree with you, bro.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we can talk about that tomorrow. We can talk about that, but you are absolutely right on that. We'll talk about that tomorrow or whenever you want to.
He goes, yeah,
Brother,
a dictator
we got to go. I
goes,
got to go. I got to go. I got to go. I got to go. Thank you for calling. I appreciate you. Let's go to the studio.
Well, Brian is certainly right as far as FDR vetoing so many bills. He is correct on that one.
Mhm.
However, why he vetoed them was they were full of pork, full of
Right.
wasteful spending. And a president can take a look at that and say, no, this is wasteful spending, because most of those bills that come through are full of wasteful spending. They just happen to be called milk for children or something like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're mislabeled as to what they really are. They're just pork.
Right.
So any president that vetoes one that's full of pork, kudos to him. And that's
Jack?
it. Jack says no.
All right. Anyway, folks, thank you so kindly for listening. Thank you, callers. Thank you, listeners. You know I love you all. My name is Egbert. Oh, but go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter for all the topics we were going to cover that we didn't cover because I prefer speaking to you. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.